and this will do it. Our building committee is hard at work, getting quotes and wanting to get this job done as quickly as possible. This will do it. Shana Tova, thank you. I wish you the happiest and healthiest of New Year's.
We'll begin our service with words of welcome.
Welcome. We've come together to welcome the new year, to celebrate its promise, responsive please, to honor our responsibilities. New beginnings bring new opportunities for new and deeper relationships.
For the larger vision may present.
Let us preserve joyous and worthy memories, and let us carry forward our noblest hopes.
Generation shall live through the year which now begins.
Let us learn from experience the lessons of the Jewish past and the lessons of the human story.
Beginning aware of the newer challenges before us.
Let us greet the new year with renewed strength and hope, responding to the mystery and the glory of life, setting forth with confidence in our abilities.
To make the plans and perform the deeds to help make this truly a Shana Tova.
May we bless ourselves with a good and sweet year. Shana Tova.
And now we invite you to begin our service by singing together Avenu Shalom Aleichem.
Avenu Shalom Aleichem. Avenu Shalom Aleichem. Avenu Shalom Aleichem. Avenu Shalom, Shalom, Shalom Aleichem. Avenu Shalom Aleichem. Avenu Shalom Aleichem. Avenu Shalom Aleichem. Avenu Shalom, Shalom, Shalom Aleichem.
Strange is our situation here upon the earth, each of us coming for a short visit, not knowing why, yet sometimes seeming to divine a purpose. From the standpoint of daily life, however, there is one thing we do know, that we are here for the sake of each other, above all, for those upon whose smile and well-being our own happiness depends, and also for the countless unknown souls with whose fate we are connected by a bond of sympathy. Many times a day, I realize how much my own outer and inner life is built upon the labors of others, both living and dead, and how earnestly I must exert myself in order to give in return as much as I have received and am still receiving. Albert Einstein.
Let's all sing together.
Let's
Read with me responsibly. Today is an opportunity for hope and for reflection. Life is a complex weaving of past and future, memory and anticipation. A pause at the calendar's turning helps us reflect on where we have been in the past year and where we hope to be in the year ahead.
This is the season.
We gather in this season to feel our connections to each other and to Jews in every corner of the world. Our attachment transcends time and space, uniting us by emotion, memory, and community. We are part of the Jewish people, and we are a congregation of Humanistic Judaism. This is the place. In this place, we are a fellowship of ideas and of family connections. We face the new year together, knowing that we are stronger with each other than we are alone. The bond we feel with each other is profound, for we all face this new beginning together.
This is the moment.
Let us use this moment to prepare ourselves with courage and conviction for the year that begins today. We are ready for the journey ahead.
Please join together and say the first in Hebrew and then in English.
Harvested by those who come after us.
A time to eat and a time to laugh.
Let us weep for the days we have wasted, for gratitude we did not offer, for the tears we did not wipe away, for the gifts we did not use, for the good we left undone. Let us laugh with the hope that we can and will do better in the year we are about to begin.
Time to break down and time to build up.
This is the time to break down the walls of estrangement that separate people from each other. This is the time to build up the bonds of caring that draw us closer to one another in love and tender regard.
For everything there is a season.
Time to mourn and time to dance.
At this time we mourn with all who in the year gone by have suffered the death of loved ones, the loss of dignity, the shrinking of self-esteem. We dance with joy for those who have been blessed with good fortune, who have enlarged their sympathies, widened their compassion.
Time to cast away stones, and time to gather stones together.
Now is the time to cast away the heavy locks of remorse and regret that lie on our hearts, the rubble of blasted dreams and collapsed hopes. Then let us gather the scattered stones and build with them a temple of vision, renewed and spirit refreshed as we journey confidently towards the beckoning future.
Time for war and time for peace.
Now is the time to make war against our stubbornness, which keeps us from abandoning our misdeeds. Now is the time to perform Shavuot, to return to the better versions of ourselves, so that we may know the true blessing of inner serenity and peace.
And now you're invited to sing together these words from the book of Ecclesiastes, which are adapted by that great American folk singer and songwriter, Mr. Pete Seeger.
What do you hear? Sounds fill the air above us, but we do not listen to them all. We select. We decide which sound we will take to heart, which sounds will move us to respond. What do we really care to hear? baby crying, a sound of beauty, a warning, a word of love, a cry for help. We can shut them out of our lives if we wish, deciding they are only noise. What will we hear? What will cause us to turn, to renew a part of life which too quickly passes by? Have we learned to hear the voices of our elders? Or the opinions of our youth? Have we learned to hear the sounds that we ourselves utter? Or do we mock our own words with gossip and vain promises? Do we hear the sounds of chaos and creation in our own lives? And hearing, do we love each other more? The summons to hear these sounds is the message of the shofar. On Rosh Hashanah, we hear it anew. Throughout the ages, the shofar sound has had many meanings. Today, it calls out to remind us that time does not stand still, and that it is never too late. It calls to remind us that life must be renewed. It is an alarm to waken us from that slumber and stupor which shut out concern for others and ourselves. Blessed are those who hear the sound of the shofar and take it to heart. The sound of the plain ram's horn is not created by mechanical means, but by the breath of life. The sound of the shofar is a wordless chant. It is a cry from us to each other, an act completed only when someone listens. Hearing is not difficult. True listening demands our attention and our hearts. Do we hear the shofar sound? Does it call on us to examine our lives? They have eyes but see not, ears have they, but they hear not. So wrote the psalmist about lifeless idols. Let us live our lives that these words could never be applied to us. The sounds about us, when properly heard, taken to heart, have great power. They lead us to compassion. Let us turn to these sounds, hearing. Let us turn to each other, caring. May our lives reflect that we have heard ourselves and each other. The sounds of the shofar bind us together, uniting us wholeheartedly. If only all of us would listen. If only all of us would hear. Listen to the sounds, for not to hear is not to care. Tekiah. Shvarim. Joah. Tekiah Gedolah.
And now let us all sing together.
Oh,
inspiration of this day. Surely our deeds do not pass away unnoticed, unrecorded. With every word and every deed, we write a book of life. Freely we choose, and what we have chosen to become stands in judgment over what we may yet hope to be. We are free. We are responsible. Therefore, it may be said that our lives pass under review. But are we free? Is the future already determined by the influences from within and without that daily press upon us? We are not always altogether free, perhaps, but we are free enough to choose, to make the effort to turn. All the forces of goodness, within and without, will combine to help us. We can turn, and while we live, we can choose goodness and escape the death of our hearts. Please read the following as responsive. Let us declare the awesome inspiration provided by this day. When we begin the new year, it is debated. And when we commit ourselves, it is determined. Who shall be truly alive, and who merely exist? Who shall be fulfilled, and who shall not? Who shall be pierced by the sword of envy, and who torn by the beast of resentment? Who shall hunger for love, and who thirst for companionship? Who shall be shattered by quakes of social change, and who plagued by oppression? Who shall find contentment, and who shall wander in discontent? Who shall be poor in spirit, who rich in tranquility? Who shall be brought low with futility, and who shall be exalted through fulfillment?
Please sing with us, Hatov Ohara.
Never too late. The last word has not been spoken. The last sentence has not been written. The final verdict is not in. It's never too late to change my mind, my direction, to say no to the past and yes to the future, to offer remorse, to ask and give forgiveness. It's never too late to start over again, to feel again, to love again, to hope again. It's never too late to overcome despair, to turn sorrow into resolve and pain into purpose. It's never too late to alter my world, not by magic incantations, or manipulations of the cards, or deciphering the stars, but by opening myself to curative forces buried within, to hidden energies, the power in my interior self. In sickness and in dying, it's never too late. Living I teach, dying I teach, how I face pain and fear. Others observe me, children, adults, students of life and death. Learn from my bearing, my posture, my philosophy.
Please sing together these words that were written by our founding rabbi, Sherwood Long.
Tale told by Rabbi Aziz. A person was lost in the forest, wandering for many days and nights, unable to find a way out. Finally, another person came into view. My friend, I am lost. I've been trying to find a way for many days and nights, but I cannot. Can you show me the way? You came, replied. I too am lost, yet I can tell you this. Do not go the way that I have gone. That way does not lead anywhere. Let us search together for the ways together. Since it is unlikely that we'll be out of the woods this year, let this among all needs be our desire.
Traveling the road we know not where, we go side by side, hand in hand, heart to heart, alone yet together, and so lighten our steps and brighten our days. May we all enjoy this year's trip.
Let's all join together in song.
We seek peace. It is the most precious gift we can bestow upon ourselves. May we find the will to proclaim its message to all the peoples of the earth. May our country always be a stronghold of peace and its advocate among the nations. May contentment reign within its borders, health and happiness within its homes. May we strengthen the bonds of friendship among the inhabitants of all lands, and may the love of humanity permeate every home and every heart. May we labor for righteousness, and in so doing, author a new book of life, blessing, and peace. For we alone are the source of peace.
Please join and sing.
May the sound of the shofar shatter our complacency. May the sound of the shofar remind us of our ability to change. May the sound of the shofar awaken us to our power to effect change in the world. May the sound of the shofar renew our commitment to creating peace in our homes, communities, and the world. Tekiah. Shivarim. In this community where we find strength and common purpose, we turn our minds and hearts toward all those who need our love and support, those who are ill, those who suffer pain of the body or spirit, those who are lonely, those who have been wronged. There are many people today for whom we have extended our well wishes throughout the year who are here with us. And I believe that it is in no small part because of the strength of this community. We don't necessarily believe as humanistic Jews that the thoughts that we have can affect the universe. But the thoughts that we have do affect each other. I am so happy to see so many of you whom I visited this year in the hospital and in rehabilitation centers back to celebrate the new year with us. And I hope that it will be a wonderful and grand new year for all of us. May all who suffer know that they are not alone. May they be healed quickly. May they experience a complete recovery, refuah shlema, the renewal of body and the renewal of spirit.
Please join us in singing.
The love of the human heart is the most real and the most beautiful of all the realities we know. It is the richest gift of our manhood and womanhood. It is the love that joins us together as partners, as husband and wife, as father and mother, as parent and child, and as friends and neighbors. Whatever the length of time may be, to have known something of this is to experience the supreme privilege of being human. The anguish of parting cannot destroy this most real of realities. The love has been, the affection has existed, the ties have been woven. Life has been shared, the joys and the sorrows. This has been as real and strong as anything in life. The love that once was born can never die, for it has become part of us, of our life, woven into the very texture of our being. Each of us would wish to leave some part of ourselves. Yes, every one of us, some memory, some influence for good. So here and now we bear witness to the ones we knew in life, who now in death bequeath a subtle part, precious and beloved, which will be with us in truth and beauty, in dignity and courage and love, to the end of our days.
Our thoughts turn to those who are no longer with us, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. We think of our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, those who died at this season in years past, and those whom we have taken into our hearts with our own. Yehi zichram livracha. May their memories provide us each day with blessing. If you can do so comfortably, please rise for a humanistic. Nitzkadash, v'nitzkadash, deruach ha'adam. Let us enhance and exalt ourselves in the spirit of humanity. Let us acclaim the preciousness of life. Let us show gratitude for life by approaching it with reverence. Let us embrace the whole world, even as we wrestle with its farce. Let us, each in our own way, take up our share in serving the world and seeking truth. May our commitment to life help us to strengthen healing of spirit and peace of mind. May healing and peace permeate and comfort all of Israel and all those who dwell on earth. And let us say, Ken Yehi, may it be so. Please be seated. Throughout these holidays, there's a prayer in more conventional synagogues that, perhaps more than any other, reflect the traditional values of the high holidays. It's called the Unetane Tokef. You just heard a very, very adapted version of it in our own service. Barely a nod to the traditional. For those of you with a more conventional background, you might recognize the prayer. Its popularity, like so many of our traditional prayers, is based less on its content than on its music. It begins with a proclamation of the holiness of the day. That's what Unetane Tokef means. Because Rosh Hashanah is traditionally considered Yom Hadin, the day of judgment. And it continues with a litany of all of the fates that could befall us in the year to come as a result of God's judgment. We declare this day to be holy, it says, for it is awesome and terrible. Your kingship is exalted upon it. Your throne is established in mercy. You are the judge. The great shofar is sounded. All creatures parade before you. On Rosh Hashanah it is inscribed, and on Yom Kippur it is sealed, who shall live and who shall die, who shall perish by water, who by fire, who by sword, and who by wild beast. And it goes on like this for a few more stanzas. Now, it's not terribly compatible, obviously, with a humanistic view of life, but it has a very interesting ending. After this list of all the things that God could bring about this year to come, it dramatically concludes with this line. But teshuvah, repentance or perhaps self-examination, tefillah, prayer, and tzedaka, charity, can avert the severity of God's decree. In other words, whatever suffering and loss may await us in the year to come, there's still a chance that it can be tempered and alleviated by these three acts of religious piety. Now, I'm obviously not a fan of the overall sentiment of this prayer, for a lot of reasons, but there is something of a humanist sentiment here, if we think about it carefully. Because after it asserts all of the misery that this year may bring, the prayer does finally come around to the idea that human action, at least in part, can have an effect on alleviating misery, sadness, and need in the world. For humanists, of course, the three items on the list are not co-equal. Prayer is not seen by us as an effective way to bring about change in the world. But the other two ideas have some merit. Self-examination, teshuvah, can certainly lead us to doing more good in the world. But it is the third item on that list, tzedaka, that I'd like to look more carefully at today. Because it seems to me that it is undeniably crucial to both alleviating pain in the world and improving the overall condition of humanity. Its placement on this list of a triumvirate of acts that its medieval composers thought could actually make a real impact on the world was really a meaningful statement about at least some of the power that people have to make a difference in the fate of humanity. And tzedaka, charity, really is one of the most powerful tools that we possess. We can use it collectively. We can apply it individually. The Hebrew word suggests a context for understanding its importance. As you may know, tzedaka is based on the Hebrew root word tzedek. And tzedek means justice, as in justice, justice shall you pursue. So tzedaka is an aspect of justice. It's not left to the rulers or the judges of society. It's the kind of justice that we ourselves can bring to our societies. In that sense, it's really not a magnanimous act on our part. It is much, much more than that. Giving of ourselves, sharing our needs, is one of the most fundamental ways in which we express our common humanity. And as this prayer does remind us, Jewish culture has placed a great deal of significance on acts of charity, tzedakah. Because it is so important, we must take it seriously. This morning, I want to think about tzedakah from a number of different angles. And I want to begin with something that may be obvious. It's the need to be cautious when we direct, where we direct our charitable giving. Back in the days when Jews and actually everyone else lived in extremely tight-knit communities defined by church or synagogue, giving tzedakah was a pretty straightforward affair. We had funds that the community would set up, and everyone contributed to them. It's pretty clean. Today, of course, the world of charitable giving is much more complicated. There are endless, innumerable requests for help that come to us each, all the time. Tempting though it may be, we cannot base our charitable decisions upon which charity sent us the nicest calendar or address labels. Not that any of us would do that, of course. Sadly though, in these times we must always begin with an evaluation of the honesty and good practices of our intended recipients. Because in the modern world, charitable giving can be a minefield of challenges. There's so much wrongdoing and deceit, criminal activity. Sometimes even the most reputable charities suffer from this modern-day reality. Who can ever forget that embezzlement scandal in the United Way in the 1990s? It almost brought down one of the largest, most respected charities in our country. A much more commonplace challenge is that many, many charitable organizations are, well, simply not that well managed. But more daunting is the reality that with so many organizations out there scrambling for our charitable dollars, we are bound to encounter some really great sounding causes with worthy seeming recipients that are not really all they're cracked up to be. Organizations like Charity Watch and Charity Navigator have been established to provide insight into fraudulent or underperforming not-for-profit organizations. They can help us identify terrific sounding organizations with great names like the Kids Wish Network, the Cancer Fund of America, the Breast Cancer Relief Foundation. I give to those, wouldn't you? But in reality, they pay 90% of what they collect to their solicitors, and the recipients receive very little. So caution is recommended to anyone who is solicited for a charitable donation. But even once we have determined the financial soundness or the honesty of a cause, there are other considerations. And some of them are unique to us as humanists. It was not really the Unatane Tokef prayer that inspired me today to want to talk to you about Tzedaka. The germ of the idea actually came to me after I visited one of our best local charities, Detroit's Alternatives for Girls. Now, I hope that I can be forgiven a certain amount of favoritism towards this charity. Its executive director, Amy Good, is a member of our Temple family, and she also co-chairs our Community Impact Tikkun Olam Committee, about which I'll speak in a few moments. Some of you may know that my daughter worked there all summer. And it was during the time that she was there that I had an opportunity to spend a morning with Amy, where she graciously educated me about this wonderful organization. I learned about all the vast variety of services they offer to women and girls in Detroit. Their mission is stated this way. They exist to help homeless and high-risk girls and young women avoid violence, teen pregnancy, and exploitation, and help them to explore and access the support, resources, and opportunities necessary to be safe, to grow strong, and to make positive choices in their lives. What a wonderful statement of goals. On my trip to AFG, and I made a few during the summer, I noticed that there were other charitable organizations and agencies in the neighborhood, and this got me to thinking about the kinds of services they might provide. For example, in Detroit, and actually in almost every city throughout the country, there's a very well-known organization known as Covenant House. Perhaps you've heard of it. It's different from AFG because it also serves boys and men. But at least for girls and women, there is a great deal of crossover in its purpose. Its mission states that it exists to help homeless, runaway, and at-risk youths ages 13 to 22 by providing shelter, educational, and vocational programs as well as other support services to help overcome hurdles such as homelessness, unemployment, inadequate education, violence, drugs, and gangs. Their goal, they say, is to redirect them onto a path toward meaningful and successful adulthood. So upon learning this, I was curious about exactly how Covenant House serves this population because, as some of you may be aware, unlike AFG, Covenant House is a faith-based organization. It operates under the auspices of the Roman Catholic Church. So I was a little bit suspicious that perhaps there might be more to the story than the mission statement revealed. That perhaps there were some restrictions limiting the services and information that they could provide their clients. And this is what I found. Their materials explicitly state that they do not, quote, propose, promote, provide, or make referrals for abortions or contraceptives. I also discovered in some reports from around the country that many branches of Covenant House have frequently either outright rejected or otherwise discriminated against transgendered and gay and lesbian youth. Well, revelations like this raise red flags for a humanist like me. And they should prompt us all to ask ourselves these questions. Do these charities that we support truly reflect our values? And what do we do when they don't? Because our values are as sacred to us as religious values are to people of traditional faith. And we do not always share the same values or the same ways of understanding them. Allow me an example. As secular humanists, one of our most cherished values, maybe the most deeply regarded of all of our values, is a commitment to the essential dignity of each and every person. Now, many will rightly point out that humanists have no monopoly on this idea. Others are also committed to the idea of human dignity. I'm sure that there is more than one rabbi talking about it right now. She or he is undoubtedly making a connection, they always do, to the Torah's creation story where it says that humanity was created b'tselem Elohim, in the image of God. And this is indeed a very powerful metaphor for those who are theistically inclined. So as humanists, we are not alone in teaching the importance of human dignity, but nor does that mean that we see things in an identical way. And one significant difference is found in the fact that our commitment to the dignity of every human is bound with an insistence upon a profound and unwavering obligation to honor the autonomy, agency, that is to say, the freedom of every individual. We believe that all people have an inherent right to make certain basic decisions about their own lives. We do not base it upon notions of being created in the divine image. We ground our value in the rational observation that if one person is denied freedom, then no one's freedom is truly protected. Our humanistic way of understanding issues of dignity has significant implications for many of the decisions we make, including charitable decisions. Because in practical terms, it means that humanists generally favor those organizations that do not impose theological or ideological boundaries on the choices that they provide to their recipients, or on the information that they make available to them. Because we believe that such limits fundamentally circumscribe the foundational respect for the freedom, agency, and autonomy of every human person, which are the birthright of every person, even those who are in need, who are asking for charitable assistance. So when we learn that a certain charity, even one that does very important work and with much success, rejects this value, it should give us pause. Do we really want to support an organization that refuses to even discuss contraception or abortion on religious or other ideological grounds? Do we really want to support an organization with a history of discrimination against gay youth? During my morning at Alternatives for Girls, Amy shared stories with me from her experiences here in Detroit about faith-based charities that proselytize the homeless or the needy youth as the price of their assistance, that preach to them about the need to get right with God in order to find relief from their difficult situations. Now, I would be remiss if I did not know that Covenant House, bowing to a great deal of pressure, no longer requires those kinds of things, and that it has corrected some of its discrimination against a few categories, anyway, of sexual minorities. The other restrictions remain in place. I asked Amy, how would AFG handle a client who wanted to discuss contraception and abortion? And as I expected, I learned that as a secular organization with no ideological agenda other than serving the needs of its clients, AFG, of course, is able to provide more information about more choices for those in need, unhindered by other agendas. In an ideal world, all great charitable organizations would set aside ideological or religious agendas when helping others. But you may have noticed, we do not live in such a world. Moreover, we live in a nation where faith-based charities, at least in some areas, tend to dominate the landscape of giving. And it would be wrong of us to deny that a lot of charitable work, a lot of fine charitable work, is being conducted by faith-based organizations. So what should be our attitude about giving to such groups? The domination of charitable giving by faith-based and otherwise ideologically bound groups challenges us to demonstrate another significant humanistic value. Sometimes we must know when and how to compromise. A few months ago, during Ferndale's Pride Festival, Arthur and I wandered into a gay-themed store there in downtown Ferndale. And at the cash register, the proprietor had displayed all kinds of political and organizational stickers, the usual array of rainbows and liberal political causes, of course, but there was one set of decals that caught my eye. They were for the Boy Scouts of America. I think, judging from your reaction, that most of us are aware that the BSA has engaged in a policy of discrimination against gay men and boys. So I asked the owner, why do you have these stickers up? And he shared with me his deep attachment to the many, many wonderful things that the BSA did for him and continues to do for so many people, and the fact that it is very, very important to him. So he continued to support them because he felt that they were offering something very unique. Finally, he shared with me that he believed only by remaining involved could he hope to make the changes that he would like to see come about. And some of those are being made now. In other words, he realized his need to compromise because of his commitment to their overall cause. Well, we humanists often find ourselves in this situation. With the dominating presence of so many faith-based or otherwise ideologically bound organizations, sometimes we have to make those same kinds of choices and compromises as this store owner. Because if we want to be good citizens of our planet and to provide tzedakah where it is most needed, we are sometimes going to find ourselves supporting organizations that do not completely reflect our humanistic values. We sometimes must choose to compromise. Each time that we do, we will need to weigh the cost and benefits of supporting such a cause. Because part of being a humanist does mean reaching across ideological lines whenever possible. Our very own congregation provides a good case study. The Birmingham Temple regularly works with 3 local organizations to help the hungry. One of these, Gleaners, for which we're collecting at least some of the food today, and I hope that you all will remember to bring your non-perishable foods on Yom Kippur as well. Gleaners presents no special challenges. It's a secular organization. The other 2, however, are faith-based charities, and that's something that's very common, particularly in the food and feeding the hungry realm of charity. One of these is called NOAH, Networking, Organizing, and Advocating for the Homeless, and it's headquartered in downtown Detroit's Central United Methodist Church. Every year, the Community Impact Tikkun Olam Committee hosts a big Sunday afternoon intergenerational activity here, right here in this room. We make lunches that we then deliver on Monday to the clients at the church. It's always a highlight of our year. Well, I'll admit that when I went to the church on Monday, I wasn't particularly anxious to join the pre-lunch prayer circle, but that was just for the volunteers. And I was very, very pleased to see that the recipients of the lunch were not subjected to any requirement to pray or to listen to proselytization. And knowing that the NOAH people did so much good without impinging upon the free choice of its clients to believe whatever they wanted to believe, makes our participation with this faith-based organization much easier. But not every compromise comes so easily. And that's what I discovered with our third organization. A few months ago, more than one congregant mentioned to me that they found it odd that we sponsored a Purim project where we specifically asked the children to bring kosher food for donation. Why did we care whether the food we provided to people was kosher or not? I explained that the donations were intended for Yad Ezra, a kosher food bank here in Detroit, and that the Birmingham Temple has a long-standing relationship with this organization. But it is not the fact that the food is kosher that presents a challenge to our humanistic ideals. It is the fact that this particular food bank does not make its services available to everyone who is hungry, it generally restricts its services to Jews. Nevertheless, at some point in our history, our community's leadership made a decision to compromise our preference for charitable universalism, and for a variety of good reasons, concluded that there was much to be accomplished by supporting Yad Ezra, even if they do not completely mirror our humanistic point of view. Our humanistic value of reaching out to others whenever possible, even when we do not share their worldview, dictates that we simply can't limit our giving to secular charities. This would be impractical in any case, because there are many, many fine faith-based organizations doing great work that we want to support, and whose goals we share, and whose projects we encourage. But that does not mean that there are also not some times when we should consider giving not just to secular groups, but to and through explicitly humanistic organizations, because there are also some advantages to doing that. When our temple participates in Yad Ezra's food drive, we do so because we want to help the Jewish community, because we have feelings of Jewish identity and attachment. And indeed, this tradition of collective Jewish giving is very long. But collective giving by humanistic groups cannot boast such a record. Part of this is because there are very, very few humanistic communities that are organized the way we are. And part of this is because those humanistic organizations that do exist were formed mostly to advocate for the rights of non-theists or for the primacy of science and reason, and not necessarily for the purpose of collective action in other areas. Unfortunately, with very, very few exceptions, such as our own congregation, this has meant that humanists are frequently perceived as being less charitable than people of religious faith. About a year and a half ago, the New York Times ran a piece by its senior religious writer, an Orthodox Jew as it happens, named Samuel Friedman. It was entitled, "In a Crisis, Humanists Seem Absent." Friedman was writing in the aftermath of the Newtown, Connecticut school shooting. Here's what he said. "The funerals and burials over the past 2 weeks have taken place in Catholic, Congregational, Mormon, and United Methodist houses of worship, among others. They have been held in Protestant megachurches and a Jewish cemetery. A black Christian youth group traveled from Alabama to perform Amazing Grace at several of the services." He continued, "This illustration of religious belief in action, of faith expressed in extremis, an example at once so heartrending and so affirming, has left behind one prickly question: where were the humanists? At a time when the percentage of Americans without religious affiliation is growing rapidly, why did the nuns, as they are colloquially known, seem so absent?" Well, many of us felt that Friedman's charges were overstated. But he did raise an important concern that many humanistic organizations have only now begun to address. And it is this: it is not enough to promote science and reason and a naturalistic philosophy that teaches how to be good without God. If we want others to believe that, then we must act and we must demonstrate what our values mean in practice. The Birmingham Temple and other member congregations of the Society for Humanistic Judaism are actually among the few non-theistic humanistic organizations that have understood this from the beginning. Despite the fact, and this is true, there are rabbis who have told me that they can't stand the idea of secular humanism because it seems so selfish. One rabbi even asked me if we even believe in Tzedaka. Go figure. The reason, though, that our congregation was committed to collective humanistic giving from the start is that we are explicitly modeled on religious organizations. We're a synagogue. We may be an unconventional synagogue, but we are one nonetheless. So we benefited from the experience of collective Jewish giving. Now, with the growth of organized humanism and the new spirit of expanding the mission of many of these organizations beyond the advocacy of science and reason, this congregation finds itself in the unique position of actually serving as a role model for other humanistic groups. I have been consulted regularly in my single year here. It provides us with an opportunity to inspire our fellow humanists in the newly emerging world of humanistic communities about the importance of giving collectively. One of the great advocates of this sea change in the focus of humanistic groups is a friend of mine, Dr. Daniel Fink, a professor at Fordham University and a prominent philosopher of humanism. He has noted that the ability to participate in collective charitable work is a key reason why religious people seek out community in the first place. It's because they care about compassion, he writes, which for them is understood as a way of serving God. This has helped them to develop successful models of values inculcation and the means to transform those values into action. He reminds us that as humanists continue to organize, quote, it would be outright unethical for us not to conscientiously be turning our communal life into one that led to concrete actions embodying our values. If we are going to gather around our shared humanistic values, we are hypocrites if we only want to do so that we might talk about our values rather than tangibly implement them. Because, as he puts it so eloquently, it's clear that all people can be good without God. But it's also clear that it's hard for people to be good without good influences. As a role model for many of these emerging humanistic communities, our congregation has begun to show support for this sentiment by participating in a fairly new undertaking, charitable giving under a humanistic banner. This is something that wasn't even possible a few years ago, but it is now, thanks to groups like the very recently established Foundation Beyond Belief. Our own Allison Shalom, by the way, works as their humanistic giving coordinator. They coordinate charitable campaigns under the humanistic banner in support of a wide variety of needs throughout the world and in times of crisis. And this is why, in addition to joining in collective Jewish efforts like Yad Ezra, which we happily continue, I specifically requested our Community Impact Tikkun Olam Committee to join other humanistic groups by giving collectively and supporting the Foundation Beyond Belief when they took up collections this year for the Philippines typhoon disaster and the Central American children's refugee crisis. Because when we give collectively as humanists, we send an important message to the world about the meaning of humanism. We demonstrate how communities like ours, built on humanistic principles, are one of the best ways of doing real good in the world. And that belonging to a community like the Birmingham Temple is one of the best ways to live our humanistic values each and every day. In fact, it's a prime motivator, or should be, for belonging to our temple. And I should add, a reason that so many of you have worked so hard and given to support the temple itself. And thank you, by the way. It's also an incredibly important value to other communities of the Society for Humanistic Judaism, which is why we ask for support there as well. Because the stronger we are as a community and collection of communities, the more of this good we can do in the world. Throughout my presentation this morning, I have made frequent reference to this committee, Community Impact Tikkun Olam. Tikkun Olam, by the way, repairing the world. It's a sort of a neologism in Judaism. It used to mean something else, but that's what it means now. And it is a crucial committee here. It is chaired with dedication, not only by Amy Good, but also by Audrey Pleasant. And it is with this committee that I wish to conclude my remarks. I realize that we are all busy people with many important commitments. There are an array of wonderful committees and efforts here at the temple in which we might invest our time. But in keeping with the points that I've made here today, I feel very strongly that there is no temple committee as important as the Community Impact Tikkun Olam Committee. Because not only does it do a great deal of really worthy work, but it does so in the name of our humanistic values, putting those values to work. As Dr. Fink states, values don't just grow on trees. We have to inculcate them, nurture them, and demonstrate them to ourselves and to others. So this year, in addition to all of the important work that we will do together as a community, including the project of writing our mission, vision, and value statement, and raising funds to keep the lights on, and all of the other wonderful celebrating and assembling and learning, I want to challenge us to become one of the most visible, charitable, social action, Tzedaka-focused congregations in the Jewish and the world humanistic community, and thereby inform the Jewish community, the wider world, and the many nascent and rising humanistic communities that are out there, including that church on 11 Mile with their sign that says, "Good without God equals zero," which I am so tired of looking at, that our humanism means something. It's not just that we promote a naturalistic philosophy, and that just like the Torah, the New Testament, or the Quran function for others, our humanistic philosophy inspires us to give up our needs in order to change the world for the better. The Jewish people, our Jewish family, if you will, has always talked about Tzedaka, and that is a cherished part of our Jewish cultural heritage. But today, we have also considered many of the ways in which our commitment to humanism informs our giving. We must give responsibly, investigating and knowing well who is receiving our help. We must give conscientiously to organizations that reflect our values, or at least do work that is so important that we are willing to make compromises. And we must give collectively, as a community of humanists, to remind ourselves and to teach others that when it comes to making the world a better place, the humanists are never absent. Thank you. I feel this so strongly, and I just want Audrey to raise her hand. This is Audrey. This is Amy over here. Amy, raise your hand. Their committees, when they meet monthly, they need to meet in here because there'll be so many people meeting. We want to be in the paper like the churches that help the flooding basements and all of the other people in town. We are not that large, but we can make that much of an impact. We have people here who do so much good all the time in their lives, bring the temple into it. I think about Peter Molnar's son, would sit on in Detroit, right? And he brought it in and showed us how to build benches. There's so much going on here. Page 23, we conclude. We'll read this together. At the close of this day's contemplation, we declare, let the year upon which we entered be for us, our family, our community, and for all the world, a year of blessing and prosperity, a year of security and comfort, a year of health and contentment, a year of joy and celebration, a year of virtue and justice, a year that finds the hearts of parents united with the hearts of their children, a year of pardon and forgiveness, a year of peace, a year of life. Shana Tova.
I invite you to rise and sing our closing song, Peace Be With You.